Hello and welcome to Fearless DIY Music. My name is Tristan Lass, and today I kind of wanted to go over my bass rig, which I've had forever, which I've used for almost every single bass gig I've ever done. I've been wanting to make this video for quite some time, ever since I started the channel actually, because I have played bass in other people's bands, probably done more live gigs doing that kind of thing than I did fronting my own bands. So I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on what you would need if you decide that you want to become, I hate to use the word professional, but let's say a paid bass player or a bassist for hire. If you want to go out and play bass in maybe your own project, but also play bass in other people's projects, there are some baseline equipment requirements that you need to be successful doing so. So I thought I would just go over my rig. It served me very, very well. I have done all sorts of different projects, all sorts of different gigs using this setup. So I think that it's a good, very simple yet very, completely utilitarian, very usable, serves almost any scenario you go into. This rig will work. I've never come across anything where it was not adequate, both on stage or in the studio. So let's get started. First off, you've got to start with your bass itself. Obviously, I am a P bass guy. I think that P basses are just, to my ear, the best sounding basses out there. This is a vintage one. This is a 76, and I absolutely adore it. This has always been my bass. This has always been the one that I've used. It's very beaten in. It's very familiar to me. I love this instrument dearly. However, you don't have to have a P bass. Whatever bass that you have, though, should be able to serve, the same kind of purpose that a P bass does, though. You need to have that sort of tone that you can, meld in and out with different genres, with different styles of music, different approaches to music. I find that with the P bass, just using my hands and, the tone knob and maybe changing some settings on my amp, I can pretty much fit into any scenario that I need to. Obviously, it's not an extended range instrument with an extra string. If you want to go for that, that is great as well, adding the low B, or even going further than that. However, it all starts though, but I digress and stop, talking about my love for the P bass. You need to have a bass that is mechanically sound. It needs to have great tone. It needs to be intonatable. The bridge needs to be adjustable. The truss rod needs to be adjustable. The machine heads need to be great. Your nut needs to be cut perfectly. There's not as many, things happening on a bass you might think at first glance as there are on a guitar, which might have, a vibrato system on it or lots of crazy electronics. Basses can certainly have both of those items on them if you so desire. But given the utter simplicity of a P bass, like what I use, I have to make sure that every component and every aspect of this instrument is perfect. I want my action to be comfortable for me, which sits around, medium low. You need to have your bass just work exactly as it is meant to and feel great under your hands. If you're going to be playing, in your own project, obviously that is, very subjective. You can do whatever you want because that's your thing. But when you go to play with other people, you will discover very quickly that your nuances, your approach may not be the right approach for that project. So you have to very quickly shift gears and maybe change your attack on the strings. You need to, maybe be doing a lot more muting, no noise whatsoever. I've made a video about bass meat where you have to keep your strings, super quiet, especially in studio environments. So having your bass set up really well and being mechanically sound is critical so that when you shift gears or are asked to do something that may not be in your comfort zone or the thing that you do all the time, that your instrument is ready to go and can handle the challenges ahead. All right. Well, we've covered the bass. Now let's move on to amplification and the other, there are a couple other things that I think are absolutely vital to being a pro bass player, even though I hate using the word professional because I think that it's overused and I think that it intimidates people. Let's just say a bassist for hire. I like that better. All right. Anyway, when it comes to amplification, I am all solid state all day long. Tube amps, like the SVT, all these highly coveted classic amps, or the big tube sound, that may be great if you're playing arenas or if you're like, a seriously established super pro musician. But for just banging around town, doing studio sessions with friends, doing the stuff that most of us do, who are not, arena level, I highly recommend a solid state amp. And get one with more wattage than you think you could ever use. Headroom on a bass amplifier is crucial. This is a 400 watt, Gallion-Kruger. It's the 400 RB-3. This is an old amp. I've had this one for about 22, 23 years, and almost 25 years. No, it's been 25 years now. I've had this amp for 25 years. It has, the full array of features that you would expect and want from a, high-level amplifier. It was not inexpensive. You do not want to skimp on your amplification if you're going to be out playing bass, especially live. This has plenty of headroom. It has, a contour and a presence control, full EQ section. On the output gain, it has, presence, and it has all sorts of great, extra features. And the most important thing I want to point out on this, and I'm going to set my bass like this so that hopefully it's not blocking what I'm pointing at here. You want to have a direct out on whatever amplifier you end up buying. You have to have it as a bassist. Now, what does that do? That allows you in the studio to run a direct out signal into whatever processing that you're going to be using in that studio environment. In my studio environment here, my direct out goes from the amp to my tube compressor, then to my interface. So, you need this live more than anything because the sound engineer is not going to want to put a mic up on your cabinet. They're going to want that direct signal, and the cabinet is going to be more, they may mic it, but most of the time the cabinet is more for your monitoring on stage. So you have to have a direct out. You want a pre and post EQ selection on that, so you can run it either just straight signal, or you can run it through your full array of equalization before it goes out to the board. That way you have more tonal control. So yeah, more headroom than you think, a direct out, and a full array of equalization features at the minimum. And like I said, you don't want to skimp on your wattage. Get plenty of wattage. Just briefly, the cabinet. The cabinet really is subjective at this point in time in history, I think. I don't think that in very many, sometimes in the studio, I will, just throw up a mic for fun and blend a little bit of the room signal with the direct signal. For the most part, though, I rely upon that direct out for most of what I'm getting from the bass. I do like, the sound of the cabinet. I run a 4x10. I think that's the perfect compromise, for good sound. It just suits the way that I play. Some people like to do a single 15. Some people like to go nuts and they'll have one of these and a 15 or 12s. The cabinet I see as being something you need one, and you need one that you'll be able to, actually project and fill some of a room with. But you don't need to worry too much about, because with live sound these days, that direct out is going to be pretty much what the audience is going to be hearing. All right, and then you may wonder what all this mess is up here in this little rack mount unit. This rack mount is super, super cool. I love this unit. It's a Furman. It's a really old unit, once again, around 25 years old. This has a built-in mute and tuner. So it has a tuner, it's a power conditioner, and it's a stage light. And then I bought, the rack unit to house both of these things. And having the lighting on stage, having a tuner built in, and having a bypass switch I could just walk over and hit anytime to tune up without, blasting out the audience. Something like this, or a combination of those features using individual units, you need these things. You need the light. You're going to need the tuner, be it a clip-on tuner or a rack mount tuner like this one. I would use a clip-on tuner or a pedal tuner if I didn't have this unit. But since I have it, this is how I run it. It's very compact. And like I said, having that mute there is great. The power conditioning, you should have a power conditioner attached to your amp if you're going to be going to different places to play. I don't trust live power anywhere on any stage. And this, I carry one with my guitar rig as well. If I'm going to go out and play live, power conditioning is critical. Lighting is critical so that you can see your stuff and, make changes on the fly. And, a tuner of some sort, be it a headstock tuner, a rack mount tuner like this one, or one on the floor. All right. So, just go ahead. I have it muted right now, so that's cool. So I can go ahead and tune. If I was going to go and start, playing out somewhere, I can just tune up and have it muted. And I think I'm close enough on the other strings. Maybe not. The weather has been terrible here, so okay, I'm pretty much in tune. So, you hit that mute switch and then and that's just a brief flavor of what my bass rig sounds like. It is still pretty loud, so I cannot, I'm not going to sit here and dig in and really, go to town on it. But it has served me so well. And I just wanted to kind of go over some of the basic requirements. There is one more thing that I have not mentioned. Well, there's two things. There's all the other optional things you could do. You could go ahead and have a pedal board and have fuzzes and octave pedals and all sorts of different effects. That is not what I do as a bassist. For me, the bass is a clean instrument, and I'm just really trying to lock with the drums. And I play very melodically as well. I feel like my melodicism gets buried under effects. So I like to just play really tight with the drummer, really clean, really loud, and with good melodic, taste. But the other thing that you might want to really consider is if you're out playing live, a compressor is a good thing to have. I just prefer to have a pedal compressor. The one that I use is a BBE, and it's a great little compressor. And I just find that will help, if you get overexcited or, you just want to play really smooth. There's certain songs, that sometimes really call for a compressor. Sometimes you can turn it off, but that's the beauty of having it in a pedal form. You can just, click it when you think you need it and then turn it off when you don't need it. And if you don't have a rack mount tuner and stuff like that, then you just get a little compact board. You got your tuner, got your compressor, maybe if you want to have that octave pedal or fuzz on there, throw that on as well. But compressor, I highly recommend. In the studio, it's an absolute necessity. If you don't compress up front, in my opinion, you are going to be dealing with issues in your mix that just really kind of can't be fixed post as well as they can be if you just get it right up front. All right. Well, anyway, I just wanted to go over some things that, fledgling bass players who are looking to be bassists for hire might be thinking about, when they're buying gear. Also just wanted to kind of commiserate with my fellow bass players out there who have a lot of experience and a lot of cool equipment. I would love to hear in the comments anything that, rigs that other people use. I've shown you mine, it's a GK head, 76P bass, Ampeg cabinet, and that's basically it. And I would love to hear about other people's rigs as well. All right, if you made it this far into the video, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe. Also, share it around. I really appreciate when people do that. And then, of course, the comments section. Love the comments section. Keep them coming. And you take care, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.